This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
I need 3 of those things, baby. We ain't done yet. We ain't done yet. You like that? You like that? I like that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
And tonight, we have some good and bad and the ugly, the starting lineup, the high heat, and the color commentary with our son Dud of the Week. Spennis, what do you got going on?
Well, we're on a little bit of a long bye because I don't play softball this week until the end of the week. But overall, I mean, it hasn't been too bad. I mean, we're just kind of cruising along. I just had a 3-hit game and turned an unassisted double play at first base last game. So, granted, we lost, but still managed to turn one. And I know you've been also swinging the bat too.
Yep, here and there, but
Yep. But we can get right into the starting lineup and talking about swinging the bat. Home run derby participants are filling in as we have just about another week until the new derby files in. And that derby will actually be during our recording time next week. But we will have Gunnar Henderson, Pete Alonso, Marcelo Zuna, Alec Boehm, and wait for it, Bobby. As people who are confirmed competing. 3 competitors, 2 in the AL and 1 in the NL, are still to be determined. One of the running things that we will have there is coming up next as we talk about the hardwood, as Paul George signs with the Philadelphia 76ers after Tyrese Maxey got extended, and then Caleb Martin joins a few days later. DeMar DeRozan is in a sign-and-trade that ended up with him going to the Kings and sending Harrison Barnes to the Spurs. While Klay Thompson has gone to Dallas, Buddy Hield will be a Golden State Warrior. And we have the retirement of Kemba Walker. I'm sure you remember more so Kemba Walker for his famous step back at MSG during the Big East tournament. I think Kemba Walker was also a part of that 6 overtime game in the Big East tournament.
I just remember him being a big name during the NCAA tournament.
Yes, that is true.
I don't remember him doing the 6 overtime in the Big East tournament, though.
Yeah, it was in 2009. It was 2009, the Big East tournament quarterfinals, where Syracuse ultimately won 27-17. And it was the second longest game in college basketball history. And ultimately Louisville won this tournament. But Johnny Flynn of Syracuse was involved with it as well. This was also the tournament that you basically had. So I think this was the 2009 Big East. You actually want the 2009 NCAA tournament, not. Oh, because actually the 08-09 team was actually Kemba Walker was a freshman during that Big East tournament. And this was kind of back when the Big East was still really good, and they lost to Michigan State in the Final Four.
That sounds about right.
Yep. So I mean, Kemba Walker, though he had a pretty good NBA career, I think he was more memorable for his time in college. And we are not going to get into the content activity because we are now a week and a half away from me having NCAA football, college football in video game form once again in my hands. So once I get a little bit of warm up time on that, recordings will begin there. Season 2 of March to October of my edition, The Guardians, started last Thursday and will continue this week. And it's a little more of a breeze through the regular season and a little bit longer and it gets a little bit more in depth and divided up toward the end. Is kind of how I am going to describe it. At least season 2. But it is going to get done. And now we can move on, as we've kind of flown through the starting lineup here, because, as we probably needed to anyway, because we have some heavier things coming up. And we now can get to the Eastwood segment and that beautiful tumbleweed footage. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
All right, Spinnis, what do we have for the good this week?
The MLB All-Stars have been unveiled, and we had 32 different first-time All-Stars this season. We did not, when we wrote out the All-Star rosters, we did not put in who had a first-time appearance, but as Ruckus will go through the AL and I the NL, we will mention who had made All-Star appearances for the first time.
All right, for the AL, we have Tyler Anderson. We have Corbin Byrne. Go ahead.
Start with the starters.
All right, I'll do that. So the catchers, we have Adley Rutschman of the Baltimore Orioles for first base. We have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. of the Blue Jays, the second baseman. Excuse me. We have Jose Altuve of the Astros. And then for the shortstop, we have Gunnar Henderson. For third base, we have Jose Ramirez of the Guardians. The outfielders, we have Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and Steven Kwan. And then Yordan Alvarez for the designated hitter position for the Astros.
All right. And I am trying to figure out who the first-time All-Stars are for that point to see if they were a first-timer, but we'll probably hit more.
Was one of the first.
I think Gunnar is probably truly a first-time. I think Gunnar is truly a first-timer. But I think some of these others have. but it says all but one AL starter will be taking the field with a teammate. Astros, Guardians, Orioles, and Yankees will have a pair in the starting 9, while Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the only Blue Jay. And now we can move on to the NL. At catcher, from the Milwaukee Brewers, William Contreras. At first base, from the Philadelphia Phillies, Bryce Harper. At second base, from the Arizona Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte. At shortstop, from the Philadelphia Phillies, Trey Turner. At third base, from the Philadelphia Phillies, Alec Boehm. From the Milwaukee Brewers in the outfield, Christian Yelich. From the San Diego Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. And from the San Diego Padres, Jurickson Profar. The designated hitter will be Shohei Ohtani from the Los Angeles Dodgers. I think out of all of them, I think the first timer there is probably Profar. Jurickson Profar.
Yeah, I think for sure.
Was truly a first timer. And now you can move on to the pitchers.
All right, here we go. So, just start off, we have Tyler Anderson, Corbin Burns, Emmanuel Clase, Garrett Crochet.
First time All-Star.
Yes, sir. And then Logan Gilbert, which is also
Another first time All-Star.
And then you have Clay Holmes, Tanner Hoyuk,
Another first time All-Star.
Puck Tua, Seth Lugo.
Another first timer.
Yep. And then Mason Miller.
First timer.
Cole Riggins.
First timer.
What about Tarek Skubal?
He is also a first time All-Star.
Yes,
as
sir.
There are 7 of them. There are 7 of them among the pitchers for the AL that are first time All-Stars.
And then you have Kirby Yates.
Not a first timer.
Oh!
He actually is a second time All-Star. And the fun part about the All-Star pitchers for the AL, take a wild guess of who has the most. If you had 7 first-time All-Stars,
Burns.
It is Corbin Burns with his 4th. So nobody has had more than 4 All-Star appearances in the bullpen for the AL. Anderson's on his 2nd, Clase is on his 3rd, Holmes is on his 2nd, and Yates is on his 2nd. So it is a relatively newer group of pitchers. But for the NL, the top one here for them is a first-time All-Star selection, Tyler Glasnow. Second-timer, Ryan Helsley. First-time All-Star from the Philadelphia Phillies, Jeff Hoffman. Another first-time All-Star for the Chicago Cubs, Shota Imanaga. Another first-time All-Star from the Atlanta Braves, Reynaldo Lopez. Chris Sale. First-time All-Star from the Miami Marlins, Tanner Scott. Rookie and first-time All-Star, probably potential NL Rookie of the Year candidate, Paul Skeens.
Yes, sir.
First-time All-Star, Matt Strom. First-time All-Star, Ranger Suarez. First-time All-Star, Robert Suarez. First-time All-Star, Logan Webb. And second-time All-Star, Zach Wheeler. And I was unemphatic for Chris Sale because he had the most out of all of them there with 8. But it is a bunch of fresh faces, and all eyes will be on Paul Skeens. Which I wouldn't doubt that for a second. And now to the AL reserves.
All right, so the AL reserves. You got Salvador Perez with the Royals, Correa with the Twins, Rafael Devers with the Red Sox, Josh Naylor with the Guardians, Isaac Paredes with the Rays. Then you have Marcus Semien with the Rangers. Then you have Bobby Witt Jr. with the Royals. And then you have Jaron Duran with the Red Sox. Riley Green with the Tigers. And then you have Kyle Tucker with the Astros. And then David Fry with the Guardians.
Okay, so your first timers in this regard: David Fry, Riley Green, Jaron Duran, Bobby Witt, Isaac Paredes, and Josh Naylor. Yes, so this is the first time All-Star appearance for Bobby.
Bobby!
All right, so for the National League, we have Will Smith, not the pitcher, the catcher. For the infielders, you have first-time All-Star C.J. Abrams of the Nationals, Pete Alonso, Luis Ariz, Mookie Betts, who will not play due to a broken hand, Ellie De La Cruz, first-time All-Star, Freddie Freeman, Ryan McMahon, a first-time All-Star, and then Teoscar Hernandez, Jackson Merrill, first-time All-Star, Helio Ramos, and Brian Reynolds. Helio Ramos is also a first-time All-Star. And then the designated hitter for the NL, Marcelo Zuna. So we've got ourselves a pretty good All-Star game, especially with a lot of fresh, new faces. Which of these players do you think is probably going to have the most exciting appearance?
I think it's Ellie De La Cruz, for sure.
Cruz is electric. He is a
That
very electric player.
That and Bobby Witt. Other than that, I really don't know.
Me, I am going to say Paul Skeens. I think Paul Skeens is going to have some electric stuff.
I think he shows up like near the 7th or 8th inning though.
Oh yeah, I think they basically will give him like a certain amount of time, like a very small amount of time. Because I believe that the All-Star starter for each side is probably going to be Tyler Glasnow. I think you go Tyler Glasnow and Tarek Skubal, honestly. That's probably who I think should start. But All-Star starters have also not been determined yet as far as the pitchers go. And now that we've gotten through the good, I will let you lead the way into the bad.
All right. So for the bad this week, we have Cameron Sutton suspended for 8 games due to violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. He is currently playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers, so kind of sucks to see him suspend for 8 games due to that, but it is what it is.
Yep. Basically what he did, and what he did to all of a sudden end up in this, is that he entered a pretrial diversion program in April to resolve a domestic violence case, had been charged with misdemeanor battery after he turned himself in to the Hillsborough sheriff's office after being wanted for weeks by the police. NFL said an investigation violated the personal conduct policy, and Sutton is not appealing. He was with the Lions at the time of his arrest, but Detroit released him after learning of the warrant. The warrant was issued, and then he signed a 1-year contract with the Steelers last month. And before signing with Detroit, Sutton had spent the first 6 years of his career in Pittsburgh. But unfortunately, our ugly involves another potential DB whose life was unfortunately cut just way too short. Vikings rookie draft pick from the 4th round, Kyrie Jackson was among 3 that were killed in a car crash in Maryland. And this is sad because you really hate to see that happen, just simply because of just what all the potential that this player had.
It's a damn
He
shame.
was only 20. Yeah, he was only 24 years old. He would have turned 25 in August. Died in a 3-car crash that occurred in PG County. The other 2 former players were high school teammates of Jackson's. Were killed in the crash. Jackson was not the driver. Hazel was driving a Dodge Charger with Jackson in the passenger seat. The car struck an Infiniti Q50, attempting to change lanes at a high speed. The Charger left the road and struck multiple tree stumps. Jackson and Hazel were pronounced dead at the scene, while Litton was transported to the hospital before being pronounced dead. Looks like the investigation was still active and ongoing. And it could very well have been that alcohol had played a factor in the crash. Or at least speed and alcohol for sure. But it was
Otherwise, it just sucks that it happened to someone like that young that had potential.
Oh yeah. I fully agree with that. You hate to see someone not be able to have much of that
dream
with his career. Yeah. I mean, it was bad in 2007. I was a senior in high school, but of course we found out that Sean Taylor got shot in mid-season. And that's the reason why number 21 was retired in DC. But we understand that some ugly things do happen. Some ugly things do happen, and this happens, but we feel bad for it, and I'm sure that there will be a moment of silence at the first possible chance that that the Vikings may be able to, possibly, for this, especially because Jackson was not the driver. Without a further ado, I am going to just lead us right into the high heat. And the first piece we're going to have is we're going to talk some soccer. As over the weekend, actually, I will say over the past bit of time, the knockout stages of Euro 24 come in, and now there are 4 teams left. Spain knocked out Germany. France knocked out Portugal. England knocked out Switzerland. The Netherlands knocked out Turkey. Those were the quarterfinal matchups. And now we have on, at the time of this recording, it will be the day of. I'm talking about the semifinals over the next 2 days. As Spain will take on France, and the Netherlands will take on England. And on Sunday, the 2 finalists will compete in Berlin for the Euro Championship, and we will let you know who wins at the starting lineup on next week's episode. On the next episode, we will let you know who wins Euro 24. As for Copa America, the U.S. got knocked out real quick as they lost to Uruguay. But what we have now is the semi, and we are now down to 4 teams in Copa America, as it's a smaller tournament. Argentina takes on Canada at MetLife Stadium. Uruguay taking on Colombia at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. The semifinal losers will compete for 3rd place on Saturday in Charlotte. And then the 2 semifinal winners will compete for the Copa America Championship on Sunday at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. I am predicting, I think for Euro, I am thinking the English will probably win over the French. Actually, the French could very well win it too, but I'm going to say England over France. And in Copa America, I am taking Argentina over Colombia in the final. But even with these secondary things going on, Ruckus, you know what time it is. It's time for these takes. It's time for these takes to get a little spicy as we head into the color commentary.
What kind of spice are we talking about, though? Are we talking like the Taco Bell hot sauce that's like kind of weak sauce? Or are we talking about Diablo sauce, which is real hot? And I'm talking real hot. Dude, like, not gonna lie, I'm gonna go on a tangent like Rex Heidler for a second, but here's the thing. I've had a shot of Diablo sauce, and I'm talking like a vodka shot of that shit, and let me tell you, one time I took it before I was let's just go on a tangent here for a second. I was in a college algebra class, and my last resort at this point, I was on one of the last big exams or whatever for this college algebra class. I was dazed and confused, let's say. I was very tired. I was like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. This is going to suck. But I got through it. And I saw this packet of Diablo sauce from Taco Bell. I literally downed that like a vodka shot. I was like, okay, I need to wake up and get through this. I down the Diablo sauce. I'm like, and it felt like someone that like literally snorted like some type of illegal substance and was like, woo! I'm back. And I'm back now, and point is, that Diablo sauce got me a 101% on my exam, and I passed my college algebra course, thank the Lord. But also, in reality, thank God for me just to pay attention to that. But anyways,
think we've
Speaking
got
of hot
ourselves.
takes,
We've got ourselves a
Diablo
couple of
sauce is
good
probably
ones.
the hottest sauce in Taco Bell's history, besides the weak sauce of hot sauce. Anyways, go ahead, Sven.
Trying to think.
Sorry.
Trying to think. Is there's a trying to think. Diablo's is that one the one with the ghost chili?
No, it's just a special hot sauce that they have that I think is probably hotter than hot sauce in general. I don't know the hierarchy of Taco Bell hot sauce,
Oh,
but
I
I
think
just
it's
know
mild.
Diablo
I think
is
it's mild.
pretty.
I think it's mild hot fire. You have fire after hot.
Well, sorry to let me stand next to your fire, but Diablo's probably hotter. Because
Oh yeah, of course Diablo
as
sauce is gonna be hotter because I think it's inside of like a black container.
and not gonna lie, for many Americans, it's probably the fire in your you know what.
Here's the first take. Stephen Curry believes that the recent run with the Warriors was likely the last major NBA dynasty. Do we agree or do we disagree?
I'm
Is
just
there
gonna say,
potential for another dynasty?
I think there's a potential, and I think Steph Curry is just talking shit. In all honesty, just kind of like how Michael Jordan was kind of talking his smack when it came to the Last Dance. I think there's another dynasty. It's just that we don't know it yet. And for the record, like I'm not gonna diss on both the Bulls and the Warriors for their awesome runs. I think Steph Curry and the Warriors for sure. They looked kind of like how they looked like a next generation of the New England Patriots when it came to like how their reign of legacy came on. Like obviously now you kind of look at it as like, oh, um, Steph, Draymond, and Clay are kind of like these washed up people or players, but at the same time, like that legacy they had before even Kevin Durant joined, it was like, damn, like these guys have what it takes to take the league by storm. They showed it, kind of like how the San Francisco Giants showed their legacy with the players they had in baseball. Like the
Think of
Warriors had their shit together. Like
think
even
of the Spurs with Duncan Parker and Ginobili
yeah, like
for all those years.
eventually those guys like they got older and they got more fragile. Curry, like he's starting to show that, but like Draymond was more fragile just with the refs. Clay had his woes with the leg injuries and stuff like that because like the whole ACL thing is a big deal in sports. Like not even in baseball, but like basketball, like anything. But
Football, yeah. But I'm gonna say that I think that as far as NBA dynasties as we would typically describe them, I believe that Curry is spot on here. And here's why. The money is bonkers in the NBA. The business side of it and people and players changing teams as often as they do. You don't have as many players who are going to be saying, "Hey, I really want to play for this team long term." Because they want to because there's just as much focus on the next paycheck. There's so much trading around now that's done. You don't role players are definitely different. You're not necessarily building super team because really good role players help build championship rosters. And I think that with how players are now moving around, I think there's not going to be many teams that have players that stay around for long term. You run into your few faces of the franchise here or there. I mean, Tatum and Brown could possibly be that way for the Celtics. I mean, Curry's doing that with the Warriors.
Has been.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, he has been, yeah. That's what I was saying with that. But I think that Stephen Curry may be truly onto something. And it may be truly onto something that just with how the business side of the NBA is now anymore, that this may be truly the last dynasty as we proper, maybe the last dynasty proper, that is. I'll let you go ahead and read the second one there, Ruckus.
All right, so on a podcast, Joe Burrow was talking about how the NFL, in theory, should have a second bye week in a regular season, as the season is extended to 18 games. Is this a crappy idea or a decent idea? Obviously, the podcast shows is it a good or bad idea, but I don't know. To be honest, I feel like if you do a NFL bye week, because originally it's like every team gets one bye week, but it's like two teams in a sense that get a bye week from different divisions, right? Is it just one from the AFC and NFC?
They scatter it at random. They scatter it at random when they schedule it.
So technically, you could have two in the NFC for 1 week and then two in the AFC?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you gave two bye week, because you have 32 NFL teams, correct?
Yeah, you have 32 NFL teams.
Divide that by 2, you get 16.
Here's what you have. NFL bye weeks this year are split from week 5 to week 14. 4 teams get a bye in week 5, 4 teams in week 6, 2 in week 7, nobody in week 8, 2 in week 9, 4 at 10, 4 at 11, 6 at 12, nobody at 13, and 6 get week 14 buys. So it feels like it gets that proper distribution. And I swear, I think and it almost like it doesn't necessarily matter how it ends up, because what it looks like here is that you have 2 teams each in week 5 from each side, 2 teams from each in week 6, 2 from the NFC in week 7, 1 of each in week 9, 2 of each in week 10, 3 from, or all 4 of them in the NFC in week 11. Looking like 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 6 in week 12. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 5 AFC teams have a bye in week 14. The only one that doesn't in week 14 is the Commanders. That is not an AFC team that has a bye in week 14 is the Commanders.
I'm not gonna lie, I saw this as a kind of a shit post on Twitter, but I thought it was an interesting discussion because of the fact that even if one big name player thought that they should have a second bye week, I thought it would be an interesting thing of discussion because I thought of it as, well, maybe that would make sense as far as if every team had a bye week twice, but I think at that point you might as well have like 20 to 22 weeks in the season and start like in August. Because that or take away the preseason and take like your preseason into like training camp and be like, okay, that these players we don't necessarily need, but we're looking into this and that, and then at that point make the um, training camp into a okay, we're gonna cut these guys, but other teams have the advantage of looking at these other guys and putting them on their team. So a more rapid survival of the fittest in a sense.
Okay. So what? So what it does is that. So what they say that they do is that, for example, it's like the league tries to limit the number of times a team that played the week before has to face a team coming off the bye. And then the schedule makers will also consider where a team's bye week fell the past season in past seasons. A team with an early bye week one year will receive consideration for a later bye week the next season. And the league also tries to avoid scheduling teams that play on the road and Monday nights with an away game the following week to avoid having two road games separated by a short week. So there's different things that the NFL considers when making their schedule. I think adding a second bye week from the player's perspective is an incredible idea. For the schedule makers, it is just going to be another royal pain in the butt. It is going to be another royal pain in the butt. But I do believe that if you have a later bye, if you have a later bye on one end, you get an earlier bye. You get your second bye week a little earlier. Is it gonna extend the length of the NFL regular season? Yes. But you're trying to get more games on the schedule so that you can have more time with the viewers watching your product.
I feel like
So,
it also throws a wrench into the thing when it comes to injuries. Like, obviously, if
yeah,
you suffer a
I
season-ending
fully agree.
injury, it's gonna screw you over no matter what. Because, like, if let's say, for example, Joe Burrow was to have like a hand injury and he suffers it like week 2. Let's say he gets a bye after that, and then like his team plays week 16, and then he gets a bye, and then they get a bye week 17. Is it really like a area? Is it really a concern at that point whether or not he plays in the playoffs, depending on how well his team plays through
Oh,
between week 2 and week 16
yeah.
without him?
Of course. But at the same time, it also, let's say you end up running into those injuries that are a little more day to day, like a little more like your minor injuries, like super minor.
Right.
That extra week, that extra week of rest could be a benefit for maybe those lesser injuries.
Like a
The less
contusion or like a concussion.
Oh yeah,
Like
concussions could be in this. Mild sprains.
hamstrings.
Yeah, those little things. Like the little things that you see so many times players having like a questionable on their injury report in a fantasy football season.
Right. That, or like if it's more so like a lingering thing, do you know whether or not that's going to be a thing that turns strongly into something else? Because like the media likes to put like this, oh, he might be worse than he actually was, but we don't know yet, but we'll tell you later on. It's like, come on, man. Like, either he's injured, he's able to play, or he's completely just out
Oh yeah,
indefinitely.
players with game time decisions. That's how the nature of this beast is.
And I'm not dogging on the fact that like um that the player is just injured for how it is. I just want to be real, like with the fans, where it's like, especially if you're doing fantasy, like if you're trying to figure out, okay, well, if so and so is injured, then who the do I like add in to like put into that? Like like that's really for any manager or fantasy manager or
Oh yeah,
whatnot. But
yeah,
still,
yeah. But that's where all of your research during the week, like you do all your extra work during the week. That's what people do. That's what all the competitive people do.
anyways, let's keep going.
Yep. The next one, we're going back to basketball. Paul George, who we talked about earlier in the episode, signed with Philadelphia. But he then says that he never wanted to leave LA, but the offer from the Clippers was quote unquote disrespectful, so he up and left, taking more money, pretty much. The question is, was he really worth the money he requested, especially since Paul George is 34 years old?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think because didn't Harden sign with the Clippers like
Yeah,
last week?
Harden's. Yeah, it would have been Harden, Kawhi. It would have been Harden, Kawhi, and Paul George.
Honestly, I don't think James Harden is the way he is. I think he is overhyped and just not worth the money. And Kawhi, like he's been injury prone since he joined the Clippers, and besides his cringy ass laugh, hasn't really done much for the Clippers. It seems more of like a hey, we're here, but we're not super competitive. And the fact that they were trying to keep Paul George in that, Paul George hasn't been relevant since he's a Pacer. I'm sorry, but also not sorry because the last time he was actually good, he was with the Pacers and he was facing LeBron James in the Eastern Conference Finals.
And he wasn't even wearing number 13. He was wearing number 24.
And he still was more relevant as a Pacer than he was as a Clipper. And even didn't he have his like really traumatic leg injury before he joined the Clippers
Trying to do
during
that with
the
Team USA. Yep.
Yep. So like after that injury, he has just never really
Been the same player.
right. So for
Yeah,
him to say he was disrespected by the Clippers, I think you should just say tough shit and just be humbled rather than be like, "Oh well, I should deserve more." It's like, dude, let's be honest. If you played defense and you played offense and you did what you came for, sure. But D Wade played better than you. Anyone played better than you, and you're still complaining? Like, Jesus Christ, dude.
You are.
Yourself out.
It's like you are my age. Yeah, I'm 34. Paul George and I are the same age. I'm sorry. Even though you have been playing incredibly well for what it's been worth throughout a good bit of your career, I do not believe that Paul George is a career 20.8 points per game, 6 boards, just a little under 4 assists, and just under 2 steals a game. Is he a terrible player? No, but I believe that he is not worth. I do not think that Paul George is worth as much as what he got. Because 34, you're normally on the downside of. You're in the twilight of your career.
Yeah, Paul George is gonna have to prove his process of elimination, though.
Oh yeah, especially because that contract he did receive, especially to say that he was I mean, 4 years, $212 million. and the Clippers were offering 2 years, $60. Yeah, you may be at $53 million right now with this deal. But the Clippers, even though they were paying you probably just a little over half that, the shorter deal, you're on the twilight of your career, and if you wanted to finish your time out in LA, that would have been a very, very healthy deal in order for you to do that.
Well, healthy is a strong term when it comes to the LA tax, though, too, because, like, Philly is probably less than what you would have gotten as staying in LA. Because, obviously,
Beside the point.
that's
Beside the
why
point.
I was going to say that because, like, if you want more money, the sales tax is going to be higher in Los Angeles rather than in Philadelphia. But
Yeah.
I should probably look at that while you also talk about the next point.
And then he also decides to shift over to number 8 while he's there at Philly as well, which that's something else in and of itself. But Anthony Edwards claims that he is the number 1 scoring option for Team USA, even though LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and KD are on the team with him. Granted, Anthony Edwards is 22. Is Anthony Edwards right? Or is he just riding some sort of confidence high from the NBA season prior?
Speaking of confidence high, while we're at it, I just looked up the LA to Philly tax rate. Philly was at about 8%. Los Angeles is about 10.2%. So there you go there. But to the Anthony Edwards thing, I would say that it's good that Anthony Edwards has his standards high. But the fact that he is talking to people that are on a higher level than him, like LeBron, Steph Curry, and KD. Meanwhile, KD is injured with the calf strain or whatever the hell he's going on with. Is he right? Is he okay with riding the confidence high? For sure, but I think he needs to consider what's going on with the rest of the team, but also be humbled in the fact that, like, hey, like, he has a chance on this team. Obviously, he's there to try out for a reason and or on the team for a reason. I think he should ride that high and keep going and push himself and realize, like, hey, like, there's a reason why they asked me to be on this team, and if someone gets hurt or God forbid, he can come in and prove why he's there, rather than just talking shit. Because, like, obviously the question is he right in his thing of being number 1, or is his I guess his ego too high? And I don't think his ego's too high. I think he's in a good spot.
For a 22-year-old, yeah, I think that the confidence level on him is extremely high. I mean, Steve Kerr's the coach.
What was the name of that Netflix movie where it was him and Adam Sandler and the guy that they're trying to get into the NBA from Serbia?
Oh, was it Hustle?
I think so.
I think it was Hustle. It was Hustle.
Go ahead, sorry.
But here's where the roster has Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Stephen Curry, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, Kawhi Leonard, Drew Holiday, and LeBron James. Okay. Drew Holiday is a defender. I could see why he's there. LeBron James is LeBron James. But I think that Anthony Edwards may be, as far as talking, a number 1 scoring option. I think he could very well, depending on the health of some other people, could be biting off a little bit more than what he could chew. But Anthony Edwards, I'm not knocking the hustle.
I
I
love
just
his
think
confidence. I get.
I love the
That's why I
I
said
love the swagger.
humbling.
Yeah, but this is international play. This is FIBA.
Hasn't
This is
stopped the USA before, though. To be honest.
oh yeah, it has not stopped. It has not stopped them for a second. But I think you've got. But I think, and this is the 5-on-5. I believe the 3-on-3 is done a little differently here.
Wait, they have a 3-on-3? I thought it was literally just like a
Yeah,
USA versus the world, and then the USA would just clobber everybody because.
yeah, they're
everyone-
doing. Yeah, there is also a 3-on-3. There's 3-on-3 this year,
and it's
this
not Ice Cube versus Ice. It's not the Ice
yeah, it's
Cube
not
League,
it's
right?
not the Big Three league. No, it's Canyon Barry, Kareem Maddox, Dylan Travis, and the headliner for the 3-on-3 is Jimmer Fredette.
Yikes!
But then the 3-on-3 women. But then the women's 3-on-3 is Haley Van Lith, Ryan Howard, Dearica Hamby, and Sierra Burdick. And then the 5-on-5 women. 5-on-5 for the women is Nafisa Collier, Kalia Cooper, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, Brianna Stewart, Kelsey Plum, Joel Lloyd, Sabrina Ionescu, Diana Taurasi, Asia Wilson, Alyssa Thomas, and Jackie Young. And I think that we've got. And I think when it comes to that, I think we will eventually see names like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark make this, but not yet.
Right, because we talked about it in an earlier episode about how Caitlin Clark didn't make it, and neither did Angel Reese. But we did talk about how Kelsey Plum got in there.
Oh, Kelsey Plum was clearly going to be on that team because Kelsey Plum is still really good, and she is one of the younger. Like, she's probably one of there's still some players here who are in their early 30s. And ultimately, there will come a point where Diana Taurasi, who is 42 and doing this, will eventually retire. But I think
she
that
hasn't, to be honest, because she's getting up in age.
But I think women's basketball. I don't think it's as physically taxing as the men's game.
Well, yeah, because with the men, it seems like they dunk more and do a whole lot more, whereas the women,
Oh.
they go for the long range for the most part. Like, dunking aside, like, the long range is the battle there.
Oh, they pass the ball. They go with more layups than dunks.
Right.
I mean, granted, are there women who can dunk? Yes, Candace Parker can do it. Brittany Griner can do it.
Maybe a few, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, the percentage of women who are willing to dunk in a basketball game are lower than the men. So
Dude,
the women are not.
It's more higher. There's more hierarchy when it comes to dunking when it comes to the All-Star game versus in like an actual game. Let's just put it that way.
Oh yeah, for the women, yes. For the women's game, yes. For the men's game, there is a lot more athleticism that can be done.
Dude, it's like the Harlem Globetrotters for the men.
Yeah, for the All-Star game, yes. But I'm talking like in an actual game.
Right.
Yeah, it's not as physically taxing. You're not needing to do overly so much. But Diana Taurasi also does an incredible job of keeping herself in shape to be able to stick with this for as long as she does. But in response to the Anthony Edwards thing, you've still got a bit to learn there, Grasshopper.
I mean, where's the Ant-Man?
He's still the age of a grasshopper.
All right, let's not reenact Bug's life.
I was not going when I'm talking grasshopper. I'm talking
know.
like he's a Daniel-san. Show me sand the floor.
I know. All
Sand the
right.
floor. Get to the stud dud of the week.
All right, my stud this week is Seth Lugo for putting his reign in terror for the month of June, as he led, for the most part, the major leagues. I think he was first or second in a few categories, but man, when I first saw this guy get signed by the Royals, I was like, oh boy, like this might be a dud signing, because after his reign of terror in the World Baseball Classic as a honoree for the Mets, he had not really been the greatest, but my God, he has shown his worth with the Royals so far, and it's shown through the month of June, and he's definitely had a really good time in July as well. He had it up. I think he tied a career high of 9 strikeouts in one game in July. That was pretty good. But here is my dud for this week, which is Colton Brewer, where he broke his hand punching the wall of a dugout. It kind of reminds me of a time when a NBA player broke his hand because he was frustrated at something and then screwed himself over and his team, and I believe that was the Timberwolves player at that point. I don't remember which Timberwolves
I
player
think
it
it's
was,
been
but
done like multiple times. I think it's been done multiple times.
anyways, Spennis, let's keep going.
My stud, the actual stud here in this case, will go to Indiana Fever's Caitlin Clark for having her first triple-double as a WNBA player. She also became the first rookie to ever accomplish the feat. My honorable mention for stud has to go to kind of a great heel promo in a post-game interview, in a post-match interview at Wimbledon, as Novak Djokovic just went and channeled his inner Maxwell Jacob Friedman, showing in his match with Holger Rune, as he defeated in straight sets, and then also the fans in channeling this, that he's better than you and you know it. And I know that I just went completely on the professional wrestling trail and that sailed entirely over your head. But I will have to show you some of this as far as who MJF is.
I'm sure that you'll probably tell me after the show, but that's okay.
Yep.
It's all
Yep.
good. Everything is okay. Everything's fine.
Yes. But my dud this week goes to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And you would think that in a night game, when you have home runs, that you would have fireworks go off. But Pittsburgh hit 7 home runs in their game against the Mets on Friday night. They hit so many home runs in that 14-2 victory that they ran out of fireworks. No kidding.
There were 2 grand slams too.
They actually even tweeted it. Like, they even tweeted it saying that they weren't kidding. You know what's bad? When the team has to tweet out saying, "We aren't kidding. We ran out of fireworks." They weren't expecting to hit that many home runs, apparently.
But also, there were 2 grand slams in that damn game. Name the 2 that were in it. That hit the grand slams.
Had to have been one of each from Reynolds and Tellez or something like that.
I
Had him in
believe
one of each.
so. I just remember seeing a thing from Fuzzy, shout out Fuzzy, where he talked about there were 2 Grand Slams in that game. And I thought that was insane, especially for the Pirates, because everyone knows the Pirates haven't really been relevant since 2014, whenever they tried to do well in the wild card game. And that was also the infamous game where Johnny Cueto, World Series champion for the Royals, was bullied and hazed by the Pittsburgh Pirates fans as a Cincinnati Red for pitching in that wildcard game when everyone yelled Cueto, Cueto.
Yeah,
You know,
it
you
actually
know.
was one of each for Brian Reynolds and Rowdy Tellez.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and that also improved Paul Skeens' record to 5-0. So I mean, Paul Skeens has been killing it.
Dude, I'm so happy for him being an all-star for as young as he is, and I'm glad that I put him in as a Cy Young contender. I just hope that he keeps it up and nothing bad happens. But I'm trying not to lay a egg and kind of jinx it. But I think he'll do all right. Anyways.
Yeah. But Ruckus, I think on that note, you can go ahead and take us out.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I'm Ruckus, always Cosmo Ruckus.
And I'm Ruckus the Menace.
Thank you for listening to our awesome podcast, the best podcast for sports and what have you, and craziness. I am Ruckus, always Cosmo Ruckus.
I'm Ruckus the Menace, and until the next one, deuces.
Deuces.